So did the Supreme Court just give the Trump administration permission to end birthright citizenship in this country? No, that is not what happened. For those of you who aren't aware of what I'm talking about here, the Supreme Court just issued a ruling. As I'm talking to you here, it is Friday mid-morning, and this ruling just came out. And it's being reported as a ruling in the birthright citizenship case. And it's being reported that they ruled in Donald Trump's favor on the birthright citizenship case. And so it's leading many people to believe incorrectly that the Supreme Court ruled in Donald Trump's favor on the issue of birthright citizenship and gave Trump the go-ahead to end birthright citizenship in this country. That's not what happened. All right, so I'm going to explain to you what happened in that case, but that's not what happened. Now, this is where, just so you know, this is where I have a real problem with the corporate legacy media and with a lot of the independent new media, like independent content creators such as myself on YouTube and other places like that, because they all get it wrong so often, especially when it has to do with legal and constitutional issues, which many of them don't understand at all. And so they get these things wrong for that reason. They get it wrong for other reasons. You know, a lot of the independent content creators, like on YouTube, they may get it wrong because they don't know what they're talking about and they're just repeating what they've heard other people say. There's a lot of that, by the way, a lot of that. Just repeating. They all just repeat each other and they're all wrong in what they're saying. But another reason they get it wrong, and this may be a little bit more intentional, is because they want to sensationalize everything. They want to get people riled up. They want to have those really clickbaity titles of their videos so that you'll click. But anger makes you click. Outrage, you know, that drives social media. And anyway, for a lot of reasons, people get these kinds of things wrong. So here's what really happened. This stemmed from Trump's birthright citizenship executive order. You know, several months ago, he issued an executive order essentially ending birthright citizenship, saying that we, the Trump administration, do not believe that the 14th Amendment grants birthright citizenship. And so we're not going to enforce that anymore. Well, that executive order was immediately challenged in court. Lawsuits were filed at the district court level in the federal system. The district court is the lowest level court in the federal system. That's where you file lawsuits. It's the trial court. And a federal district court judge granted a motion for a nationwide injunction pending the outcome of that case. So that judge said that executive order cannot be enforced while the case is being decided, and it's nationwide. That injunction applies everywhere in the country. Okay? So the Trump administration appealed that nationwide injunction. The Supreme Court ruled on that appeal. That's what they decided today. They decided the issue of the constitutionality of district court judges issuing nationwide injunctions, because district court judges only have jurisdiction over their individual districts. And so the Trump administration said, you know, any injunction that goes beyond the geographical district in which the judge sits is null and void. They shouldn't be allowed to issue a nationwide injunction. It should only apply to their judicial district. That's what they heard today. And what the court said, the court sided with the Trump administration, but not entirely. They said that a district court judge in issuing an injunction can't exceed the scope of their authority and go beyond what is necessary, given whatever issue is involved, which, as the court does, they ruled, but they didn't put this issue to rest entirely. It's still, their decision is still open to interpretation, and what exactly is the necessary scope of a nationwide injunction, and what are the tests to determine what the scope is. And So even this ruling today is likely to be litigated further and may end up back at the Supreme Court. But putting all that aside, they only decided the issue of nationwide injunctions. And that, like I said, isn't even a clear-cut ruling. But what they did not do is rule on the constitutionality of Donald Trump's original executive order on birthright citizenship. They didn't decide that issue at all. They didn't decide whether or not Trump can eliminate birthright citizenship. That issue is still pending in the trial court. Remember, the nationwide injunction that the district court imposed essentially says, okay, Trump's executive order cannot be implemented anywhere in the country while this lawsuit is being litigated, meaning while I am deciding the issue of birthright citizenship. So that issue is still being decided in the court. Once the court rules on that, that will be appealed. It'll go up to the circuit court, and I'm sure it'll eventually make its way to the Supreme Court, and they will rule on this issue. But that's not what they did today. So this was not a ruling on birthright citizenship. This was a procedural this was a ruling on the a procedural issue of issuing nationwide injunctions. Now, you can agree with that ruling or disagree with that ruling. There is something to it, I will tell you, because these nationwide injunctions have gotten out of control. Like, I'll give you an example that cuts the other way. You might remember several months back, conservative groups wanted to ban an abortion drug. And so what they did is what these interest groups do a lot of times. They forum shop. They find a judge that they know will be friendly to their position, and they file it in that district court. And so in this case, they ran to a judge in, I believe it was Amarillo, Texas. And he issued a nationwide injunction banning the sale of this abortion drug. Well, guess what? The Supreme Court's ruling in today's case would prohibit that from happening. And I bet a lot of the people who are, up in arms today about this decision would like it if it were applied in that situation. The point is, there's a real issue as to how much power a district court judge has to issue injunctions and rulings that go beyond their judicial district. It's a legit issue. Now, the court ruled in the way that it did, and again, you can think of that what you want, but they did not touch the merits of the birthright citizenship issue. And I would caution you, don't read too much into this. I posted, because I knew this was coming, and I posted on my social sites earlier today saying that as we await this ruling in the, quote, birthright citizenship case, as it is being labeled by the media, please keep in mind that this actually has nothing to do with the issue of birthright citizenship, that it's just this procedural nationwide injunction issue. And I had somebody, because I want people to understand what's going on and not to make more out of things than is necessary, or that is the case. And I had this person says they're a lawyer. I don't know if they're a lawyer or not, because, social media. This person said, well, yeah, saying that is like saying that the Civil War wasn't really about slavery. Okay, that's a really stupid comment. Look, we need to deal with facts here. And to blow this up to more than it is, and to take it and say, well, that means that the Supreme Court is definitely going to rule in Trump's favor on the birthright citizenship issue. No, it doesn't mean that at all. Now, they might rule in Trump's favor. That would be obviously a ridiculous opinion. I don't actually think they're going to rule in Trump's favor, because it's so flagrantly counter to the plain language of the 14th Amendment. But you know what? The Supreme Court has ruled against the plain language of the 14th Amendment in the recent past, in that case that sought to disqualify Donald Trump under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment for having engaged in insurrection. Yet, that's pretty clear, and they ruled in Trump's favor there. So they might rule in Trump's favor. I'm not saying that they won't. They might, but you can't take this and draw the conclusion that they will. The two things are not related, other than it initially stemmed from the Trump's executive order on birthright citizenship. But here's the thing. What I've told you, what I've explained to you here, is the objective fact of what happened. Now, people I know on the left are going to blow this out of proportion, and many of them will attack me for telling you what it is and not going along with them and saying that this actually means more than what it does mean. And you know what? To people like that, I say, you know what? You're no, in a way, you're no better than what the Trump cult does. Because the Trump cult doesn't deal with facts. They take whatever happens and they say that it's whatever they want to say it is. But that didn't come out well. They lie, okay? They don't deal with the facts of what happened. They'll take something that happened and they'll blow it out of proportion, or they'll just outright lie about it. But it's not the fact of what happened. And in this case, the fact of what happened is that they just ruled on an injunction. That's it. Just the constitutionality of nationwide injunctions. And they didn't even make it crystal clear that just district judges can't do nationwide injunctions. What they said was it can only apply to their judicial districts or the parties in the lawsuit, or in a way that does not exceed the scope of what is necessary in that particular instance. And again, nobody knows exactly what that means. But let's not blow it out of proportion. Let's not lie about it to suit our political purpose. Because if you do that, if you lie about the facts, if you create your own reality, you're no better than what MAGA does. They create their own reality. They lie about what happens. They lie, they're alternate facts, right? Can we not do that, please? And if that's what you want, fine. There's plenty, I'm sure there are plenty of YouTube channels out there who will tell you exactly what you want to hear. But for those of you, I'm not interested in pandering to those people. I am interested in cultivating a more serious audience who may have a very strong point of view. And by the way, I know that I have people of many different points of view who watch this channel, which I appreciate greatly. But I want people here who want to begin with understanding facts and understanding issues. And then we can debate the issues. But can we at least acknowledge what the facts are and what reality is? Because if we can't do that, then we're no better than MAGA. Because that's what MAGA does. They reject reality. They reject facts. I'm not doing that. I want to do my best to teach people. That's one of the reasons why I started this channel. When I taught the Constitution and American government, especially the Constitution in college, college level courses, what I would do with my students is I would take political issues that are going on in the country, and because most of which have some sort of constitutional component to it, and we would discuss provisions of the Constitution and the Constitution generally through these political issues. And I find that it's much more engaging that way than I just go through the Constitution and talk about case law and shit. That's boring, right? So I wanted to take that and bring it to this YouTube channel when issues like this come up. And so that's still one of my primary objectives with this channel, to teach people about the Constitution and the law. And so that's what I'm going to do here. And that means we got to be honest and we got to tell the truth. So if you want to hear just the partisan hot takes and all that, you go for those clickbaity titles that outrage, Supreme Court just ended birthright citizenship, or, Supreme Court just rubber stamped Trump's executive order banning birthright citizenship, or whatever crap is out there. If you want to watch that, go, fine, watch that. But I'm not doing that. So anyway, I think I've covered it. And again, just so that we're clear, I'm not telling you that the Supreme Court won't uphold Donald Trump's executive order on birthright citizenship. I don't think they will, but I won't be surprised if they do either. But what's important is that's not what happened here today. So let's just understand the differences, okay? So anyway, that's it. Thank you for watching. Talk to you again soon.